Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another one of our monthly Be Strong talks. This is a near monthly series that is put on by the nonprofit Grace Roots, and we've engaged a number of speakers to talk to us each month about how they won in their recovery, how they're still winning in recovery, and what they're doing in their daily lives to be strong, as we say. And so we have another very special guest this evening, Crystal Lee, who is going to be our Be Strong talker tonight. And Crystal has been a volunteer with Grace Roots for many years, and so we're glad she's able to tell her story tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Crystal, and we'll get started. So everybody stay muted while Crystal's chatting, and then there'll be plenty of time after Crystal tells her story for comments and questions. And so at that point, you can unmute yourself, but let's stay muted while Crystal's giving her story. And we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you, Jay. First off, I just want to say thank you. I feel so honored to be asked to come and talk about how I can be strong during recovery and through everything that's going on right now. I'm so grateful. 20 years ago, if you would have asked me to do this, I would not have thought you were talking to me. I would have turned around and looked behind me to see who you were asking to do that. Because 20 years ago, I was on a transport bus to the women's prison in Salem for 3 years. And I did not feel strong at all on that bus. And my drug of choice was methamphetamine. I battled with it for almost 10 years. And this time of year is especially nostalgic for me because for the 9.5 years that I was using meth, I would walk up and down these streets, 6th Street, 7th Street, looking for the next place that I was going to lay my head, the next place I was going to go get my drugs. And I remember standing across the street and looking in windows at people inside their homes at nighttime with their lights on, having dinner, and sometimes with Christmas trees up at Christmas time and Thanksgiving. And I felt so far away from that ever being possible again in my life that I just did not think I would ever have that again. My children were gone. I had no family here in Oregon to help me, and the little family I did have did not want to help me. And I would just walk away thinking, I had it once, I blew it, I'm never going to have it again. So when I drive past these streets now, I can remember that feeling, and then I look and go, oh my gosh, I have a home, I have a job, I have my family back. And I guess I started being strong. I knew I had to start to be strong without knowing I was going to, be strong. The first day I was sent to prison, I realized I had to make a change right then and right there, because going into prison, you can have anything you want, any drugs you want. You can commit crimes, you can be shady, you can get in all the drama, and you can change absolutely nothing about yourself. You can do the same things in there that you can out here. And so my first Be Strong decision for me, without knowing that that's really what I was doing, was that I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and surround myself around what they called the old timers, the women who had done many years in there, and they seemed calm, and they seemed like they had figured out how to not let the time do them. They were doing the time, So I spent time with women who were wise, and women who said, you don't need to go get in that fight. You don't need to worry if that guard's talking to you like that. Who cares how they're talking to you like that? They're talking to everybody like that. if you want to make a big deal about it, you can go in the hole and then make your time harder. So right there, I started, when I look back on it now, I was choosing to be strong by walking away instead of walking towards the fight and the anger and the rebellion that I had. And over in my head, I would remember our late, great Judge Neufeld screaming at me in drug court. He screamed at me. He was very unhappy with me. You are incorrigible, Miss Buffington. There are two types of criminals. The one type who commit crimes to get their drugs, and the latter type that just commit crimes. And I believe you're the latter. He had no faith in me. He was tired of seeing me in his courtroom. He was sick and tired of me coming in, and he felt like making a mockery of the drug court system. And so he gave up on me, and he let everybody else know she's incorrigible. She's not going to change. She's almost 30 years old. This is who she is. Well, I knew deep down inside of me that that couldn't be who I was, because that's not who I was before I did the drugs. So I was going to prove him wrong. So I felt like I had something to prove now. So in prison, I made different choices. I got my first job in prison, and I worked 5 days a week on the outside work crew, and I learned how to listen to a drill instructor and a guard, and I fought really hard to get into a program, the boot camp program, which was considered so hard that they don't do it anymore. It was extremely hard military-based boot camp program, and I decided to be strong in that moment and let them say whatever they wanted to say to me and make me do as many push-ups as they wanted to. And I was going to listen and not lash out at them and not fight back with them. And I was just going to do opposite of everything I had been doing, because I wanted to get home to see my children who had came back from Washington right when I was getting sent to prison. So I made it through 3 years. I made it through the Shutter Creek boot camp program. I came out, I got a job 3 days later, and I have had full-time employment for the last 17 years, which just is a miracle in itself that I did that. I got all of my children back. They were teenagers. I had no idea what I was doing. I would pray all the time for the Lord to give me wisdom, because I wanted that more than anything. How do I raise these kids? They don't know me. They're resentful to me. They're mad at me. I was not parenting from guilt. I decided to not parent from guilt. I had read 600 books in prison in 3 years, 600 books in prison. And I was learning and learning and learning how to parent, because I didn't know. I didn't have my children for almost 10 years. So they were gone when they were babies, and they came back teenagers, and that was just like being in a foreign country for me with these kiddos. And I got married, and I've been married for 16 years. My children are now grown. I have 4 grandchildren, and I never in a million years would even think that I would be sitting here right now talking to you guys from my own business. I had no idea that I could be a businesswoman, that I could go back to college, that I could get certifications, that I would be able to give back to fellow addicts. And with all of that great news comes a lot of bumps in the road that required me to not relapse. It was important for me to know all of those things that I went through caused stress, and I had to figure out how to not use it as an excuse to go back and use meth. So I just told myself, under no certain circumstances is there ever going to be any stress in the world that is going to cause me to relapse. And so I would tell myself over and over, Crystal, what if you lost Bethany today? What if you lost Tanea? What if you lost all 3 of your children? Would you relapse? Doesn't that give you a right to go out and use? Because that's the worst thing that can happen to you. And I came to the conclusion, and I teach this to my clients, that there is no way in hell that I would dishonor them, because I don't know if they can see us in heaven. I don't know if they can or not, but in the small chance that they can, I would never want to dishonor them or break their heart or have them feel like they were the cause of me relapsing. So I just started telling myself over and over, there's no reason to relapse. You have no reason. So if I'm not going to relapse, what am I going to do to prevent that from happening? For me, I had to go back to work. I was still working, but I had to go to work and be accountable. Like, people that depended on me, I couldn't let them down. So I didn't want to let them down. I had to be here at work. I had to give UAs. I had to stay clean. I had to walk the walk. And that every day, that just helped me to stay clean. And I would take pride in things. And my tools that I use for being strong have gotten bigger over time. I had a little toolbox, but now I have a huge, I had the name of it, but I can't think of the toolbox that is super popular. I've got a great big toolbox that has all these things. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed with responsibilities, I can reach in and grab a friend who has been there and can encourage me to keep going. If I'm feeling stagnant and I'm feeling like I've learned pretty much, enough in my field, and I'm feeling like, where else can I go from there? I listen to audiobooks. I research women, powerful women who are business owners, who have had struggles, and I listen to those audiobooks. And I talk to people who have had similar situations like mine. I will tell you the truth. I've had some issues with being 50, I'm at 50. I'm at the top of the hill now, and I'm on my way down. But I'm at the top for right now, so I'm there. Okay, so I can enjoy that for a while, but I know what's coming next, gravity, and I'm going to be going down. So that kind of messed with me for a minute, like, you're dying, you're going to die, you're going to, and it just really freaked me out. So I knew for me to be strong and not focus on that and let that really make me feel bummed out about it, what I do is I listen to some of my music from the 80s, because when I'm listening to it and I'm in my car and I'm dancing and I'm singing with it, it makes me feel young, and it makes me feel like, you know what, this is okay, and it takes my mind off of it for a while. And then I feel good. It just raises my endorphins, and then I get to work, and then I feel like I don't know everything that I'm doing. This business has a lot of different facets to it. And am I really doing the right thing? I have to sit down, take a break, and then I'll research the time that, year 1 of business, year 2, where should I be? I reach out to people. I've gotten over the thinking I know everything, like I thought I did back when I was younger. And I realized that I can learn something from everyone, and that if I stop learning, then that's where I get stagnant. And when you get stagnant, things can start going backwards, and I don't want to go backwards. Then I've been given responsibilities with my aunt, and I don't like to call it a responsibility, but more of a blessing to have my aunt who has Down syndrome join our family and live with us. And there are times when I'm feeling exhausted and I go home and I'm tired and I still have a job to do when I'm at home. And she makes me laugh because she's got such a good way of doing that. Then I realize I have a blessing. These things have been put into my life for a reason. And God does, my higher power, my God does not expect me to be perfect. but I feel like he wants me just to be open to admitting my mistakes and admitting getting feedback and doing the best that I can and helping people and loving people, saying yes to things like this that I normally would not say yes to. I don't usually like speaking in front of people, but I think recently going through the loss of my little miniature Pomeranian, who I was explaining to Jay was the hardest thing I've gone through sober in 20 years. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to go to sleep. I didn't want to come to work. I didn't want to get up and go give Donna a bath. I didn't want to do anything. However, I knew I had to get up and do that. And I knew that that was grief. And I knew I had a choice to go try to numb it. I knew I had a choice. I could go get alcohol. I could go do anything, go get anything and just say, no, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel it. But I can tell you for the first time in my life, I went through grief 100% stone cold sober and actually got to feel it. And I feel like that is something I can relate to the people that I work with. And I can tell my grandchildren and I can tell my daughters and my son if he needed to know what that was like. I can honestly say you can do this without medicating on something. It's not fun and you're not going to want to do it, but you can do it. And so it was the only time my husband ever actually turned around and looked at me on the bed and said, please don't relapse. Uh-oh, I think Bob's here. Please don't relapse. And I explained to him that I was not going to relapse. And I thanked him for being concerned for me. So being strong in that moment for me was accepting that people telling me you should get another puppy. And I said, I don't want one. I don't want one. I want my dog back. I was actually yelling it, slamming my hands down. I don't want another one. I want him. And of course, I couldn't have him. So I gave in, and I got one, and I'm very blessed. And he's brought a lot of joy to my life. And so being strong for me, is making decisions even when you're hurting, finding ways to get through it and keep going. Let's see. There's just so much. I want to tell you guys a funny story. So being strong back in my using days was going and finding a place of my own. I had nowhere to go. If I went over to this house, if it was a guy, we know what he wanted. If I was over here with girls, and they had boyfriends, there was a whole set of issues with that. So I really had nowhere to go, but I found a 2-story chicken coop, and the chickens were not living in it. Okay, I promise, I love animals. They did not live in it. Well, they wanted to after I fixed it up, they did, but I found the 2-story chicken coop, and a lot of my friends in recovery could tell you this story, and they just laugh and they love it. I was so proud of that chicken coop. I decorated it. I had little pets outside, the chickens, and I could breathe just for a little bit. I had had a hysterectomy, so I needed to recoup. I needed to recover, and I just needed to be alone. It didn't last for a real long time because everybody got kicked off the property. But I remember thinking, if I could just get a house, just get a home, I would be okay. And then if I could just get my kids back, I would be okay. I wouldn't be an addict anymore. I'd be fine. The sad thing is that when my ex-husband moved back to Grants Pass before I was on my way to prison, to bring the kids to me. I was so addicted by that point that that wasn't true any longer. They could have given me my children back, and I wouldn't have been able to do anything different. I would have still been addicted. So my biggest blessing is going to prison for 3 years. It taught me how to grow up and be a woman. Boot camp taught me how to grow up and take people spitting in my face, yelling at me, cussing at me, and I didn't have to fight. I could have fought. That's what I was known for. I'd rather punch you than talk about it. And they knew that about me. And so they wanted to push me and try to break me of that. And they did break me of it. My hands were in fists. I was ready to fight. Sir, no, sir. You know, tears running down my face. Yes, or sir, yes, sir. You know, but I was determined because Judge Neufeld's saying she's incorrigible. You can't help her. She's a career criminal. There's no hope. Get her out of my courtroom. You know, and then my own lawyer, Pat Wolke, who is a judge now, who him and I have such a great relationship. He has brought me in his courtroom and talked about how proud he is of me. He was my lawyer right before I got sentenced, and I asked him, could you let me get out of jail one time? Just one time. My kids are back. My daughters are back. Can you let me out one more time? And Pat Wolke yelled at me. He screamed right at me through that glass and like this and said, Miss Buffington, you have more property crimes than anybody in Josephine County. I will not ask them to let you out. And I said, fine, take me back to my jail, you know, back to my cell then. And off to prison I went, you know. I've met with him several times since then, and we have a great relationship, and I'm happy he didn't let me out because I wouldn't have done anything different. And 82 charges, 82 misdemeanors and felonies is what I have on my record. I have a 3-page rap sheet, front and back. And I've gone through many different challenges to get the certificates I have because of all those charges. But I'm here to tell everybody that has felonies, I don't care how many you have, I don't care. You are not barred from doing so many things that you think you are. I am barred from adopting children, not because I've hurt any or did anything like that, but because of the record. They just, you know, they don't readily just let you adopt children with my record. Charges of forgeries and thefts and drugs, you know. And I can't work in a bank, certain things like that. But people that get felonies are under the impression that their life is just 100% over. And I am living testimony to you right now, here and now, that that is not 100% true. That is just not true. People that have felonies think they can never have their own business, and that is not true. You know, that's what I want my message to be to people. Do not give up. Don't let it make you want to give up. Being strong says, I can't maybe do it this way, but I know that there is another way I can do this. And it isn't about being, you know, manipulative in a bad way. It is just check and see and go as far as you can until it's an absolute no. You know, I got in the White House, for goodness sakes. I got in the Pentagon. They let me there around them. So, you know, in the White House, Arlington Cemetery. So I never knew I'd have a big, big life like this. And being strong is also not saying bad things about yourself. It's about not saying you're a loser, or, you know, sometimes we have very negative self-talk. And we have to stop that, because if we have felonies or a record, or we're fresh into recovery, we feel those things about ourselves, but we have got to stop with that self-talk. We have to say, I'm worth it. I can do this. It is possible. and that your journey is not over. I have the 50 years before and the 50 I'm hoping I get 50 more of, and to see what I can do in those 50. Let's see. So I had a few other things I wanted to say. My children, I want to say something. I want to give a shout out to my children. My adult children they have seen me go from being a mom who came out of prison to where I am like a little Hitler, you know, protecting them and trying to get them to do the right thing. And I was a little bit harsh about it, but you know, I was just trying to look out for them and make up for lost time, and I wasn't going to parent from guilt. So I was kind of a yeller. And then after time, I learned that that wasn't the right way to be. So being strong is evolving, and it's realizing if there's something you don't like about yourself or that it's bothering you about yourself, there's so much information out there that we can find on the internet to fix ourselves. And there's so many therapists around, and there's just so much. So there's really no excuse for us to not evolve more and more. And that's how I feel. I feel like a Pokemon, you know, my little grandson's Pokemon. I'm evolving into these things. You know, what do you say? I don't know, Pikachu. I don't know, you know, whatever the names are of these Pokemons. And that is the other thing, is that had I not worked on my relationships with my daughters, who I love to death, and my son as well, who we have a little more distant relationship just because he's working a lot, and my daughters have the grandkids, so I am a almost full-time grandmother with them as much as I can be for having this business and stuff. They have allowed me to mend their hearts over time for what happened, you know, when they were growing up. And in turn, that has allowed me to have amazing relationships with my grandchildren. So it's all just, it's amazing to me. I sit back and I just can't even believe it's my life most of the time. I just can't. And that I work with the people I work with, and I have the business partner that I have, and that I have opportunities to do and be anything else more that I want to be. So that's me being strong. And it's I'm busy, and I use multiple tools during the day. Sometimes one tool doesn't always, you know, work for something I need to be strong for that day. But are you there? Thanks, Nancy.
So Crystal, are you ready for some comments and questions?
Sure.
Okay. Well, thanks again for telling your story. Having only known you for about 5 years, I can't even hardly believe most of what you said about who you used to be. That's how far you've come. So that's just amazing. So anybody else out there, if you would like to make a comment or a question, just go ahead and unmute your line or your device, and go ahead and send Crystal a question.
There's 9 people. I wonder.
So I have a question. This is Brandon Thewison. I'm one of the drug court judges in Josephine County currently.
Oh,
And
wow.
first of all, I want to say that your story is amazing. You've come a long way, clearly, and you're an inspiration. And I hope that a lot of people have an opportunity to see your talk tonight. But I have a question.
Okay.
Thinking back to Judge Neufeld so long ago, what is something that you wish he had understood about you or had known about you, or what's something that you wish he had said to you in that moment to help you better along your path to recovery?
Thank you. That is a great question, because I had some issues with it. And back then, drug court was new. It was a fairly new, you know, real new pilot program. And the thing that was hardest for me was when you would get the court sanction, or, you know, you'd have to go do some time in jail because you messed up or didn't show up. They'd put you in jail, and then when you got out after the weekend, they want you in court the next day, you know, right there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But coming down off of meth, and it's probably same with other drugs, is that you just can't hardly move. I mean, I had been using it hardcore. I smoked it for years. And I was, you know, really, I needed a week. I needed 2 weeks to just sleep, eat, and just get myself feeling a little bit better before getting thrown right into going in, you know, like if I didn't have a home to stay at, so maybe I'd be clear out on Redwood Highway. I had a great big Rottweiler dog that I would walk with for protection, and we'd have to walk all the way in from Redwood Highway because I had no money for a cab. The Ready Ride wasn't available then, and there were just barriers. There were barriers there, and I wish he would have understood, like, hey, if you want me to sleep, you could put me back down in the jail, let me sleep it off for 7 to 10 days, because if I'm not going to use drugs again, I should have no problem being in jail, right? So, but it wasn't like that. It was very much, you know, hit the ground running, come in, and definitely start doing all the stuff for drug court. I think that was my biggest problem. I remember complaining about that the most, like, gosh, I can't even stay awake. I remember holding change in my hand. So finally, Judge Neufeld said, well, since you just can't seem to make it to court, but you can always make it to jail, he said, I'm going to sentence you not to jail anymore. I'm going to sentence you to coming to court and sitting in court, you know, for 5-8 hours a day, right? Here I am, I'm still coming down. I'm so tired. I'm holding my change, you know, to get something to drink. And I'm passing out, you know, I'm nodding. I fall asleep and I hit my head right on the bench right in front of me. All the change goes falling. I can't stay awake. That embarrassed me, made me feel like, why, you know, I can't get anything out of this anyway. So I got up and I walked out. Of course, that made him mad too. So I feel like there's a lot, from what I've heard, there's a lot more understanding with drug court, that you guys are working more with individual people's barriers and needs. But it goes back to Maslow's pyramid, that if your basic needs aren't getting met, how can anything else really fall into place? You know, and I didn't have my children, so there weren't any programs for women out there that lost their children. You could get housing if you had your children. You could get women's crisis if you had your children. Help from them. So there were some barriers back then. Yeah, I think that's probably that was my biggest thing back then.
Crystal.
Yes. Hi, Archie.
Well, first of all, you know, I've always felt like I've been blessed to be part of your life these last couple of years, and I never knew your story, and so thank you so much for sharing it. It's very powerful. I always looked at you as just a powerful woman and didn't know what your background was, and to be able to sit here and share it with us, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, how much I love you, and how much you're so significant to what we're trying to do. And this is very, very impactful. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Archie. Thank you.
And my wife has a question.
Okay.
I was just curious, and you may have already mentioned it, but how long did you use, and what ages were your children at the time? Do they remember any of that, or were your children with your ex-husband at the time? And it seems like you have a good relationship with them now, so I'm just curious how that went.
Yeah, I do have a great one. I'm so fortunate for that. So I started using when my son was 1 year old, and my other two were just a couple years older. So let's see. So Bethany was 4, Tanea was 3, Robbie was 1. So this was back in 1991. And I used for almost 10 years before I got sent to prison. And they lived with me, and I have 2 different dads. So my son has a dad, and then my daughters have a dad. But my son's dad and his mom, we all kind of lived in the same spot. So I used with my son's dad. We started together, but his parents didn't know. So they only thought I was using. And then my girls' dad was in Alaska working on a fishing boat. And he'd had some experience with meth, but he was gone on a fishing boat. It didn't start falling apart for me until they were like, my daughters were 7 and 8. And then my son had actually got taken from my son's dad when he was about 2. So it started unraveling when my son was 2. And let's see, I'd say in I'm not sure exactly what year they took them, but they took, all of my kids were gone by the time they were 8, 7, and 3. So I just walked on the streets here, motel to motel. I had no idea that I was taking being a mom for granted, that when they were gone, my heart, I missed them so much. I didn't realize that I actually loved being a mom, and that had I not done the drugs, it was just one night I was offered it, I did it, and they didn't talk about it. This is in the 90s, so this is when they didn't have the posters. They just had Mothers Against Drunk Driving and just say no to drugs. But they didn't really talk about meth. Don't let him out, Bob. They didn't really talk about meth use and how it would affect families and stuff. So I got addicted very quickly. I liked it the minute I did it, I thought I could be a super mom. But within just a few years, my children were gone. So I didn't get them back. So they left at 7, 8, and 3. And then, well, maybe a little older, because my son lived here. My other daughters moved to Washington with their dad. So I could visit my son here sometimes when his dad would let me. And as I saying, yeah, so when they came back, when I finally got them back, they were 15, 14, and just getting ready to turn 16. So they were gone for like 7, 8 years while I walked on the streets here. So, and then my son was 11. So when I got out of prison, he was 11, getting ready to turn 12. Didn't hardly know him because his dad never brought him to see me. And which is the whole thing of, super hard. My daughters were 14 to 16. And then I get out and I come out and they don't know me. I don't know them, but they want to live with me. So I had to hit the ground running. Like I had to get a job right away. I prayed for wisdom. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I got teenagers. If that doesn't make you relapse, I don't know what would, because teenagers are hard. I remembered them at 8 and 7 and I'm like, oh my gosh. And they will tell you, we had some rocky times. Real rocky times, but we made it through it. And I let them completely 100% unleash on me and tell me for a couple hours, tell me why you're mad at me. You have every right to tell me how you feel about it, what's going on with it, and then after all that, and I apologized and I let them say it, I said, but I will let you know that I'm not going to parent you from guilt. So I'm going to do the right thing. And, that's just the way that is. And I love you that much that this is the parenting that I need to do. And so we made it without killing each other, but we had some rough spots, So.
Thank you so much. That was great. I really appreciate you saying that that you got addicted right away. I try to, from a different perspective, just that unknown perspective, talk to my kids who are teenagers about using, and that is always a possibility of getting addicted right away. But also, I really appreciate the fact that you came into your kids' lives again when they were teenagers, because that has been super hard. Like, parenting is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Mhm. It is. It is. I know it really is. It can be the most, I mean, and when you feel like you get it right, when you know on those rare moments where we go, hey, we handled that. That was like, I did a good job on that. We got to give ourselves pats on the back for that, because we have it hard, you know. If your parenting is more than, like I tried to explain to my mom, parenting is more than putting shoes and clothes on them and a roof over their head and food in their mouth. That's what my mom thought parenting was, and that's all she ever did for me. She didn't like me, she didn't want me, and I'm the only child. But she will tell you she gave me those things, and she did, and I appreciate that. But because of that, and her thinking that's all that a child needs, I knew that is not. They need so much more, and it's a constant. And even as an adult, my adult children will tell you, I love them. I'll be there for them. I'm their mom. If they want something or need help with something, they can ask me. And I've learned to back down and not impose my views on things. You know, it took a while, but I've learned. So I'd rather be happy than right on certain things, right?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So my daughter Bethany's actually says she's going to be on here. So I saw her somewhere. Maybe she'll make an appearance. I think I hear her coming on. Nancy.
Hi.
Oh, and see, there's my daughter and my grandson.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Aww.
We weren't sure if you could see us or not.
Not until just now.
Oh, it must.
I think it goes one person at a time for talking.
I think if you swipe, or I don't know what you're on, but if you swipe, you can see everybody's.
Really?
Yeah, but you have it set up like on my phone. If I swipe, I can see
Jay does
everybody.
it. Jay sets it up. So.
Oh, perfect.
Well, do you guys have any questions for Nani?
I do.
Yes. What?
You got a switch?
Oh. Yes, I got a Switch on my butt when I was bad. Yes, I got a Nintendo Switch.
Yay!
We love you.
Yeah.
I love you too. I love you too. Bethany, do you have anything?
I don't think so. You did really good, though. That was
you
awesome to hear.
Hi, Brandy.
Yes, that was amazing.
Hi, Brandy.
I saw Brandy for a second.
Hi.
Hiding?
Yeah, she's hiding.
Hi, Brandy. I think my biggest thing I really just want to say is that being strong does take lots of different things, and that's, like I told Nancy the other day, listening, like reading my Bible when I'm feeling my spiritual tank is going down, going out on my porch, and because I have to do these things, and if I don't do these things, and I'm not saying I'm perfect in every single time, sometimes it takes a minute to go, wait a second, you got to do something, like have some self-care, because this is getting overwhelming. And there's just a lot of things, cool things. My tambourine, you know, out on the front porch with spiritual music, you know, reading an uplifting book, reading, you know, listening to audiobooks. You know, there's just so many options out there to keep our tanks full. You know, so, because I don't know what I'm doing all the time, and it's scary sometimes to be having a lot of responsibility and going, okay, I think this is right. I think this is the way we go, right? Yeah.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments out there?
I just want to say thank you so much What a great job.
Mm,
Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Crystal.
you. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too.
Fantastic.
I'm very, I feel very grateful to be a part of our team and of this community and to call you guys my friends. I'm very thankful for that.
And so are we.
Thank you.
You contribute a lot.
Oh, well, thank you, Nancy. We all do. We all do.
All right, we have a few other people on the line. Anybody else want to get in before we call it a night?
Well, thank you everyone else that's on the line for watching. And this is our newest little, he's the new therapy baby. Yes, he loves me. Yes. He was very good. Yeah. This is
Hi, Button. Hi, Button.
oh, he's looking at you like, what?
Hi, Buttons. Hi.
Oh. Yeah, animals are a big part of it. And I think, I just really just want to one last time say that negative talk about ourselves just does not serve us well at all. To put ourselves down or to say we're stupid or that we can't do this or we're not smart enough or any of that negative stuff, we give too much power to it by saying that. And we should stop, abusing ourselves and doing that and put affirmations in there. I can do this. I'm going to keep trying until I do this. This too shall pass. I'm going to, whatever it is, it's super important for us to tell ourselves that more than saying bad things about ourselves. And I think every single thing that has come my way, whether it's hard or not, has been a blessing that I am just so thankful that I have the opportunity to learn from it. Because there are times I just don't want to get up in the morning and I go, oh my God, I don't want to get up. But my sweet little Aunt Donna's in there and I can hear her in there singing and, and I'm like, okay, that's the day we're going to have. She's singing, I got to go in singing, because I want her to have a good day. What? She's in there singing. Yeah. But
All right. Well, thanks again, Crystal.
You're
That's
welcome. Thank you, Jay.
great story. For those of you on the line, you can make sure to follow us on our Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and search for Grace Roots Pathways to Wellness, and because we'll be sharing a recording of this video, and what a great story you told, Crystal. This many other people deserve to hear your story because you've got a great one, and thanks again for sharing your story tonight. And we use Facebook to get out word on future Be Strong talks as well. So thanks again, and we will see you again soon for the next Be Strong and
our Grace Roots meeting soon.
Yep. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.
Have a good
Bye,
night, everyone.
Noni. Bye.
Bye. Love you. Love you
Love
guys.
you too.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. I'll see you tomorrow, Bri. Bye, Nancy. Bye, everyone.